I was taken aback by the first words directed at me from the woman who was supposed to become my sister-in-law. My brother, with an even more malicious grin, turned to me. "Sis, just go home already. Please don't forget to leave your gift, though." The two of them laughed together, and I felt something close to hatred towards my brother. But then, he said something that made me lose even that emotion. "Well, it doesn't really matter if we have your gift or not. All our relatives love me, and they are probably giving us a lot of money. Mom likes me more than you two, so she might even give me all of her property." "Hey, that makes it sound like you're just using them for money," I retorted. "Well, it can't be helped. They're a good source of income," he replied nonchalantly. I never thought my brother could be such a terrible person. Despite it being our first reunion in a long time, he hadn't changed a bit since the old days. If anything, his terrible personality had only worsened, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I reached my limit and left the waiting room while the two of them laughed together. "My name is Emma. I'm 32 years old. I work for a foreign cosmetics company. After graduating from college, I worked for another company but was lucky enough to be headhunted by my current company. The people I work with are ambitious, and I work tirelessly every day while receiving constant motivation. As a result, I now hold the position of department head. Ever since I started working at this company, they have recognized my worth. Every day has been enjoyable. Of course, there are times when I struggle with work, but the sense of accomplishment after overcoming those challenges is something I can't experience anywhere else. I've never been one to spend my days thinking about how much fun I'm having. Especially before going to college, my days were very stifling. I have a younger brother, Nate, who is 5 years younger than me. Ever since Nate was born, my mom has been completely devoted to him. She loves him so much that I became less important to her. As a young child, I couldn't find anything to fill the loneliness of not being cared for by my mom. The more my dad and relatives tried to pay attention to me, the more I missed my mom. On the other hand, Nate was the first boy born in our family in a long time. He was also the type to easily get spoiled by anyone. So before long, our relatives stopped caring about me and only doted on my brother. To make matters worse, I have a strong sense of justice and hate wrongdoing. Not many people find a child who points out problems so cutely. Because of this, I became more and more distant from my relatives. The worst part was Nate's personality. Having been pampered by my mom and relatives, Nate grinned to someone who couldn't be satisfied unless he was the center of attention and knew exactly how to behave to get it. You could say he was skillful and good at getting by in life, but you could also say he was manipulative. I found it increasingly difficult to get along with my brother, Nate. He often found himself in fights, and my mom was always quick to defend him. As the favoritism towards Nate grew stronger, I began to lose my sense of purpose. It wasn't just my mom. Even our relatives started favoring Nate, and I felt increasingly out of place during family gatherings. Seeing my discomfort, Nate would casually suggest, "Why don't you go to the other room, sis?" His smile belied a look that brooked no objections. At that time, Nate was only in the first grade of elementary school. If something bothered him, he wouldn't hesitate to lie, often painting me as the villain. I had long surrendered my role as the older sister when he uttered those words, leaving me with no choice but to retreat. Yet, what stung more than being treated like an outsider by my brother was the indifference of my mother and relatives. When my absence was noticed and my father inquired about my whereabouts, they merely shook their heads. My mother's response, "I don't know," felt like a dismissive brush-off. Nate, seizing the moment, would divert attention with one of his tales. It was as if I had ceased to exist, and the pain of being erased from their conversations was excruciating. Nothing changed, even in my absence. It was only my father's sister, Aunt Ava, who seemed to notice my absence. "Here you are. Don't you want to go back to the others?" she gently inquired as I sat, quietly grieving and frustrated. Without me even realizing, my aunt sat beside me, offering solace. As I buried my face in her lap, tears streaming down my cheeks, she began to speak softly. "I kind of understand how you feel, Emma," she murmured. "Maybe it's because I'm an older sister too. Ever since my brother was born, he was the one who got all the attention. You know how our relatives are, mostly women, so they really spoil the boys. I always thought it was unfair, even for you and Aunt Ava." I was taken aback to learn that my aunt, who always seemed so cheerful and in control at family gatherings, had also experienced feelings of jealousy towards her brother. Her admission caught me off guard. Yet her gentle smile in response to my question softened the weight of her words. Yes, when I was a kid, I was so jealous of my brother all the time, Aunt Ava confessed. But he wasn't very talkative, so he wasn't always the center of attention like me. I think you must be feeling much worse than I did, she added, her hand gently stroking my head. It had been so long since I had received such comforting gestures, and I felt a mix of emotions, happiness and embarrassment for letting her see how vulnerable I felt. Our family has strong ties, you know, Aunt Ava continued. Nate is kind of cunning, or maybe he's just good at winning people's hearts. He has that kind of personality, right? Everyone gets easily fooled by him. Really, Aunt Ava? You think that about Nate too? I asked, surprised once again, realizing that no one else in the family seemed to see my brother in that light. Aunt Ava winked at me, surprised. So don't forget, I'm watching you, Emma. If you want, I can talk to everyone about it. No, it's okay. Just knowing that you're watching me is enough to make me happy, I replied softly. All right, I understand. But if there's anything you want me to hear, I'll listen. You can always rely on me, she assured me. From that moment on, I looked forward to seeing my aunt at family gatherings. Even now, though I've moved away, I still keep in touch with her regularly. The only other contact I have is the occasional email from my father with updates as I rarely go home. I didn't expect to receive such unexpected news from my father. Nate was getting married. At a time when I was already feeling a bit anxious about the rush of marriages among my friends and even my coworkers, this news hit me hard. Though I wasn't unhappy with my current life, I couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment. Then to add insult to injury, Nate contacted me. Jesus, long time no see. His message read, I'm getting married, and my fiancée is already pregnant. Don't worry about not being married and showing our parents or grandchild. I've got that covered. But in return, give us at least $10,000 as a gift. It includes the costs of giving birth. Kids are expensive, you know. My already low excitement to celebrate Nate's wedding dropped to zero because of his sense of entitlement. I even considered not attending the wedding, but eventually I convinced myself that this was a once-in-a-lifetime family event and decided to accept Nate's request. On the wedding day, after the ceremony, we were led to a family waiting room to prepare for the reception. After a long absence, I reunited with my mom and relatives, and naturally, the conversation revolved around Nate. I tried to embrace his moment in the spotlight, but old memories kept resurfacing, casting a shadow over my mood. The gloomy, overcast sky mirrored my inner turmoil, and my mood darkened with each passing moment. That's when my dad approached me. Emma, it's been a while. How's work? He inquired. Oh, Dad, I'm managing somehow, I replied, trying to muster some positivity. I see. Would you consider coming back home more often? He suggested, but I couldn't bring myself to agree. Yeah, I'll come back when work calms down. Excuse me, I need to use the restroom. I excused myself hastily, escaping the stifling atmosphere of the family waiting room. It dawned on me that perhaps I hadn't changed as much as I thought, while others remained steadfast in their ways. Feeling uncomfortable in the presence of my relatives, I let out a heavy sigh. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Nate, instructing me to come to the bride and groom's waiting room immediately. Wondering what he wanted at such a crucial moment, I made my way there reluctantly. As soon as I entered, Nate wasted no time. Did you bring it? He demanded, his tone implying something ominous. It took me a moment to grasp his meaning, but the disdainful glances from him and his wife made it clear. Yeah, I brought the $10,000 gift. Are you satisfied now? Congratulations on your wedding. I offered my congratulations with little enthusiasm, my heart not truly in it. But immediately, I regretted my attempt at civility. $10,000. I clearly said to give more than that. Isn't it common courtesy to give more than the requested amount? Nate retorted, his tone dripping with entitlement. Isn't $10,000 already generous? I gave it because you said the baby was coming. Isn't your attitude a bit much? I fired back, frustration bubbling to the surface. If you choose to act like this, I don't want to be involved with you in the future, I added, exasperated. Nate clicked his tongue exaggeratedly, clearly annoyed by my response. His wife joined in, laughing mockingly. Don't worry, we don't plan on relying on someone who's still unmarried in her 30s and acting so high and mighty for such a small amount of money, she taunted, her words stinging with condescension. I was taken aback by the first words directed at me by the woman who was supposed to be my sister-in-law. Nate, too, wore a malicious grin as he chimed in, Yeah, just take your gift and leave. Make sure you leave the gift money. The The two of them laughed together, and in that moment, a surge of hatred towards my brother and his wife washed over me. But Nate's next words shattered that feeling. Well, even without your gift, we'll be fine. All our relatives love me. I'm sure they give us a lot of money. Mom likes me more than you too. She might even give me her entire fortune. Stunned, I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Wait, that makes it sound like you're just using them for money, I protested, struggling to comprehend. Well, it's true. That's why we invited fewer friends and more relatives, Nate retorted casually, confirming my worst fears. I never imagined my brother could be such a callous person. The amusement Nate and his wife seemed to derive from viewing our relatives, even our mother, as mere sources of income disgusted me. It was clear he hadn't changed at all since we were kids, only grown worse. Unable to bear their presence any longer, I stormed out of the bride and groom's waiting room as their laughter echoed behind me. As soon as I left, I heard someone calling my name. It was Aunt Ava. Seeing her, I couldn't help but let my feelings show. Auntie, I can't take it anymore. I'm leaving, I confess, my frustration boiling over. My aunt's expression turned to one of anger as she listened. I heard what just happened. This is unforgivable. Everyone should know about it, she declared, her voice laced with indignation. But it's true that everyone likes Nate, right? If I say something, I'm sure no one will believe me, I lamented, feeling defeated. It's not like he's forcing our relatives to give them money, so it's just a matter of me putting up with it, I reasoned, though the bitterness in my tone was evident. Fine, I don't think I'll ever see them again anyway, I concluded, feeling resigned to the situation. Apparently, my aunt had been worried about me after noticing my discomfort in the relatives' waiting room and followed me when I left. After hearing my conversation with Nate and his wife, she suggested telling everyone about it, but after witnessing their callous behavior firsthand, I couldn't bring myself to subject my family to such embarrassment. I had resigned myself to the situation, but my aunt was brimming with anger, a stark contrast to my own feelings. You don't have to put up with it anymore, Emma, she asserted. I never thought Nate would go this far. There's still time. Let's confront them together and reveal everything. If anyone still supports Nate after that, then they can be their source of money or whatever else they want. Encouraged by her words, I decided to face the situation head-on and return to the family room with her. Surprisingly, my mother's brother, Uncle John, believed my story right away. Actually, there have been some bad rumors about him at the company, he revealed. I didn't want to doubt my nephew, and I thought it was natural for the business to have some bad times. But after hearing Emma's story, it all makes sense. I guess I was only considered valuable as long as I was paying him. Uncle John, who runs a company where Nate works, explained that Nate had been taking advantage of his position as the president's nephew and doing as he pleased. Because Uncle John is the company's president, our relatives respect him. When he acknowledged my story, everyone started to believe me one by one. Even my mother, who had been adamant until the end, gradually grew suspicious, not only because of me but also because of my aunt's revelations about Nate. My parents, who had believed me from the beginning, were radiating with anger. I'm sorry for our son. We must have raised him wrong, my father declared. Let's all go home today. He doesn't deserve to be celebrated. With those words, my mother and all the relatives decided not to attend the wedding reception. My parents hurriedly left the family room to explain the situation to the other guests. As we waited at the shuttle bus stop, the guests who were supposed to attend the wedding started to arrive. At the end of the crowd, I could see my parents. My father gave me a strong nod when he saw me. I was sure all the guests had decided not to attend. Thank you for believing in me, I tried to convey to my father. But as I approached him, he was yelling into his cell phone. It was Nate on the other end. It was the first time I had seen my father so openly angry. I heard from Aunt Ava, Nate, it seems you've been calling our family and relatives a bunch of gold diggers. How could you say that after all they've done for you? We have no intention of celebrating you anymore. We're going home today, my father declared before hanging up the phone. He'd apologized to me for all the hard times we had endured. Once we boarded the bus, Nate called me, his voice tinged with panic. Emma, Aunt Ava turned everyone against us and spread rumors. Now nobody slept at the venue, he exclaimed, his agitation palpable. I remained composed as I responded to him, refusing to be drawn into his turmoil. Your Aunt Ava heard you guys making fun of the family, and she joined in the conversation, so everyone believed us. I explained calmly. Nate's voice, once confident, now sounded on the verge of tears as he realized the severity of the situation. "What are you going to do about it?" he pleaded. "I don't know. We're already on the bus." "Don't say that," I replied, feeling no inclination to forgive him. "Are all of them on the bus too? If so, please convince them to come back with you." As Nate's desperation grew, I ended the call without further consideration. Soon, cell phones began ringing one after another on the bus. It was likely my brother and his wife calling, but no one answered. In the end, my brother and his wife couldn't secure any gift money from the attendees. Not only did I, but our parents and relatives also refused to aid Nate. Furthermore, they lost contact with a few of the friends they had invited, exacerbating their financial woes. Our uncle fired Nate from his job, unable to defend his poor performance and bad reputation. His wife, having quit her job for marriage, found herself pregnant and unwilling to work. They spiraled into debt, constant fights, and eventually decided to divorce before the baby was born. Despite my brother's repeated attempts to seek help, both our father and mother turned him away. Meanwhile, I found myself visiting my parents' house more often since Nate's wedding, attending family gatherings without discomfort. This newfound ease allowed me to embrace a broader perspective, becoming more flexible in handling work situations. Colleagues, subordinates, and bosses alike praised the positive change. Just the other day, I was even invited to dinner by a salesperson from a company we've been dealing with, sparking a glimmer of excitement for the signs of spring. With each step forward, I felt a sense of liberation and renewal in my heart.